it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. So today we have a fun kind of crossover video between a couple of different techniques that I am going to mash together. So we are going to start off. I recently got some of these new Woodware stamps. They released a new line sort of recently, a little while back, and these ones are more similar to the ones that I previously really loved. Now, if you've watched my channel, I know you've seen some of the ones that I absolutely love over and over again. They are great value for money and such good quality for such large stamps. So for this technique, it is going to be a crossover between the triple stamping technique as well as the spotlight technique, I think. In my head, these are kind of what I was thinking anyway. So I'm using the Sunflower Rays stamp set, and I just love this gorgeous big one. I know I've already used it in a few videos again, but prepare to see it more because it is stunning. So I'm going to take, I actually ended up using 3. I stamped this out 3 separate times. And you don't necessarily need to have it in exactly the same place, but I think it makes it helpful for just making it all work in my brain. So that's why I've got it in a stamping platform. I have stamped out 3 of these with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then I'm going to pop some clear embossing powder over all of these because that just means whatever I choose to color these with, however I choose to cut them out, whether I'm putting my fingers on them, on the ink, I'm not going to smudge anything or ruin anything from here. So this is like my little insurance policy that I pretty much do every time I use some sort of ink to stamp something out. So I have heat set all of those. They are all gorgeous and ready to go. Now at this point you can kind of decide what you want to do with the image. Now there are a few different options from here, but first of all I am going to take a square dies and some circle dies today. Now it doesn't matter which brand you have, but stacking dies are a good investment in my opinion if you are into card making or scrapbooking or art journaling or anything like that. Now, as I said, there are lots of companies that do them out there, and you just have to kind of pick which is your kind of jam, which sort of shapes. Now, also, I am going to use the circle on one of them. Now, I'm going to take a square, and I've done it up in the top left-ish hand corner, and that means I have enough room to also get another square down the bottom right-hand corner of that other image as well. Now, the reason I had to cut out a couple of these and stamp a couple was that because obviously I would be crossing these over, and yes, that would be possible, but for my brain that was just going to be too hard for me to figure out. So I am going to cut out 2 squares from this one and a circle from the other one. Now, from here, I actually didn't need the third one, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to fit in those squares on the same one, so I did do a third one. Also, if you wanted to, I'll show you in a little bit how you could also use the third one as well. Now, I'm going to use some Rustic Wilderness, Mowed Lawn, and Twisted Citron with these little brushes that I have to do some quick colouring. Now, I have fallen in love with these brushes mainly because it means almost goodbye to masking if I want to color something in. Previously, I probably would have cut out a mask and masked the outside of this so that I could use finger daubers or something like that to color in this image. Well, I mean, you could have used alcohol markers as well, I guess, but if I were using ink, that's how I would have done it. I would have masked. But with these little dainty brushes, these are brushes on the end, and I'm able to use these with the ink and not have to do any masking, but still get right up to the edges. I use a couple of different greens to get some different shading. By no means is my colouring perfect, and I'm certainly no artist when it comes to colouring. I will never claim that, but I get by, and these brushes help me out a lot. So this is something that I've definitely fallen in love with, and I'm going to use some Squeezed Lemonade yellow ink for the base of my sunflower. Now, I know it kind of looks funny, I'm leaving some of the leaves blank and things, but that's because the squares that I cut out are actually going to cover that area. So there is no need for me to kind of double color or color places that are going to be covered up anyway. Now, this is where I'm using just to kind of save and conserve, and I can use one for a different project. But if I'd wanted to, I could have just used the whole complete image to use as my base, but I chose to use the one that I'd already cut the circle out of. I figured it was going to all be covered anyway, so I may as well just use that one. So this is kind of normal time for me. I'm going through it. I've sped up parts of this just because you get the gist of how to do the colouring. I know I've shown it in a couple of other videos. Then I come back and use some wild honey and I add in a little bit more dimension and some shading. Then I use some vintage photo, which is going to be the centre and just into the outside of those the petals of the sunflower. And then I also just usually wipe over it with a dry kitchen towel just so that I take off any ink that might be sitting on top of the embossing. Now today's card was a pretty quick one, and this is just a quick sort of mashup of a couple of different techniques for me. Now this is where you can laugh. I love this blue colour, cardstock, but I only had it in a slimline paper pad. So that was not going to work if I wanted this to be my layer, so I'm just going to put these together. And trust me when I say, you cannot tell that I have used two pieces here, and in fact it's about to get even funnier, so bear with me when you look at this bit. But this is going to be my layering for the entire back panel, so I put some double-sided tape on there and that's fine. So I put this on and then I am going to cut out around that. Now you can use a paper trimmer, you can use whatever you are comfortable using. I have the Tim Holtz long bladed scissors. I think these are called the 9.5 inch scissors, and so I am able to just go around the outside. It's not too bad for me. I'm able to just do it with that long slice. If I use short scissors like my cutter bees, fine detail ones, there is no way that I can cut a straight line, so I have to use my long bladed ones. But here I just end up putting bits and pieces together so that I can give every layer an individual little matting layer. And this is what's kind of going to create the spotlight effect. So I have colour on most of it, except for it's more of a triple stamping because you have kind of different layers, but the images continue around it as well. I don't know, it's hard to explain. So anyway, I just want to show you quickly. If you were to do just the spotlight technique, you could use this one here and you could add on one or maybe two of those squares. So just one part would be coloured. And you can see the image continues, but just one part of it is coloured. And that would look absolutely gorgeous. So that's one option if you just wanted to do kind of the spotlight part. But I'm mixing things up for today, and I guess maybe ideally I would have had a blue card base that I could have popped this onto, but I don't have any coloured card bases at all, so I generally just use a matting layer. So I think it looks fine, and I guess it avoids me having to put a white thing in the middle of the cards too. So I'll just look at the positives. Anyhow, I'm popping this down onto a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base. That's what all my cards are. My card base cardstock, I use the 300 GSM or 110 pound Frenchville brand from Spotlight here in New Zealand. I know that you can get exactly the same one in Australia. I have a friend over there who has purchased it and she loves it as well. It is a good, heavy, nice weight cardstock, and I use it for my card bases and card fronts as well. I love the crisp whiteness of it. And I get it in pretty big reams, I think, and it's a very, very affordable cardstock for card making. So just in case you were wondering. But other than that, I'm going to put the center of the sunflower down flat. So no real dimension except for an extra layer of cardstock, and then I'm going to add the 2 squares and they will have foam tape behind them just to lift them up a little bit, and then now it will look like finally the whole picture is coloured and complete. And then that is pretty much today's card. I had fun with this one. It was short and sweet, but it was really pretty easy to create. And if you were inspired by these videos, or if you have created something similar and would like to show me, the easiest way to do that, because I love seeing the artworks that you create as well, is to do this over on our Facebook page. It is called Come Crafting with Natasha. You can either find a link down below in the description box, or you can just type it into Facebook. And we have an amazing supportive group. I am so grateful. Everybody is very supportive and encouraging over there. So if you would like to come and join our group, please do. I would love to see your creations. Other than that, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.